We are 1 week away from Super Bowl Sunday as I record this, and what better time to release a full first round mock draft post-senior week. Some players really rose over the course of the past 7 days, and some, like Kenny Pickett with the questionable hand size being in the 0th percentile, definitely fell on some teams' boards. And for clarity purposes, that does not mean he's going in the 5th or 6th round now after being a first round quarterback a week ago because of the size of his hand. Because it only takes one team to fall in love with him, and surely one will. And we will find out where Kenny and 31 other NFL draft prospects in today's video go, so without further ado, let's begin. Number 1 overall is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they are the first team since the Browns half a decade ago to have back-to-back number 1 overall picks in which they went 1-31 over a 2-year span. And like those Browns having back-to-back number 1 picks does not happen by accident, and due in large part to this, we are going to be helping out Trevor Lawrence, who is in very much need of that in 2021. Sure, Kayvon or Aiden would help out the pass rush, but this is not a team that's a piece or two away from seriously competing with the Joe Burrows, Josh Allens, and Patrick Mahomes of the world. And one thing that I kind of want to be clear over this draft process in Jacksonville is just because Joe Burrow took the Bengals from the number 1 overall pick to a Super Bowl appearance and potentially a Super Bowl win within 2 years does not mean that's Trevor Lawrence's standard next year. And by the way, for Malik Willis, who is very much viewed as a project, does not mean Josh Allen, because he was a project when he came out of Wyoming, is expected to be the next Josh Allen. So, the last time a receiver was taken in the top 2 picks was Calvin Johnson back in 2007, who was 6'5", 235, and ran a 4.35 40 and was a first ballot Hall of Famer. No disrespect to Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Chris Olave, and the gang, but they're nowhere near him. And we are helping out Trevor and selecting tackle Evan Neal from Alabama in today's mock. Detroit is at number 2 and will have their pick of a pass rusher, whether it is Kayvon Thibodeaux or Aiden. GM Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell did a very good job in their first draft, as in 2021, landed a future Pro Bowl tackle in Penei Sewell and an underrated receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown, who in his rookie year put up over 90 catches and 900 yards. People will tell you one way or another that Aiden is either a future Pro Bowler or he is a future bust, with seldom in between and seldom saying, yeah, he'll be average, and they should 100% draft Kayvon Thibodeaux over him. And this, to be clear, is a mock of what I think happens, and when late April comes, I think the selection, after having months to mull over the pick, will be the hometown pass rusher who helped Michigan beat Ohio State for the first time in years, and in his own rights was a Heisman Trophy finalist, Aiden Hutchinson to the Lions. Next is the Houston Texans, and this is a true wild card, and this is truly where I think the draft starts, because right now 1 and 2 with Evan Neal and Aiden Hutchinson, I do think at this point in time, early February, those picks are set in stone. Obviously not as much as Trevor and Zach Wilson were a year ago, but gun to my head, I think those picks are what they are at this point in time. Now the Texans can go Kyle Hamilton as easily as they can go Kayvon, as this is a team that needs help pretty much everywhere. I wouldn't force a quarterback here, because while I don't think Davis Mills is what Deshaun Watson was in 2019 and 2020, I think you roll with him this year rather than draft a maybe quarterback prospect, because odds are the Texans will be selecting in the top 5 again next year. Kyle Hamilton is a once every few year player at his position, and no disrespect to Kayvon Thibodeaux, who is a very good player in his own rights, but the selection here is for a safety prospect you do not see come around often. Kyle Hamilton to the Texans. 4 is the New York, and I know Jets fans, if the draft plays out like this, would be screaming for Kayvon to turn the card in and never look back, and understandably so. I get where you guys are coming from here. However, I think Joe Douglas and the Jets are in a situation similar to the Jags, where they're trying to do everything to help out their young franchise, and at this point, hopeful franchise quarterback, in both situations, by the way, not just New York, and the player that does that best in this scenario is Ickey Ekwonu, the tackle from NC State. having a good line of Ekwonu, AVT, and Mackay is certainly a start, and we'll have to get Zach some better weapons later in the draft because I'm not a fan of him throwing to Jamison Crowder and Braxton Berrios as his reception leaders the way they were in 2021, so we may address that later in the mock. Also, I love Elijah Moore. Please don't think I disrespected him or forgot him. He just finished third on the Jets in receptions in 2021 after the aforementioned Crowder and Berrios. Pick number 4, Ickey Ekwonu, tackle, NC State. Back in 2019, the Giants beat the then R-Words in a December game and went from 2-11 to 3-11, while the R-Words went to 2-12 and eventually got the number 2 overall pick, landing them Chase Young from Ohio State. And here we are in 2022 with the Giants on the clock, and there's a great pass rushing prospect staring them in the face. From the offensive skill position group, they are pretty much set, and they are coming off of a year where they tied for the 9th lowest sacks in the NFL with just 34. We've seen over the past few years what a good pass rush can do, and new general manager Joe Schoen's first selection will be Kayvon Thibodeaux from the University of Oregon. 6 is the Carolina Panthers, who I truly believe are a sleeper team in veteran quarterback trade talks this offseason, which I do think this pick would be in the discussions for that, but we will have them making a pick in today's video. I don't believe in forcing a quarterback here, and while Sauce Gardner from Cincinnati or Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU will probably be pretty good NFL corners, they have J.C. Horn and C.J. Henderson for their future. At least that's what we think at this point in time. So we are going to give them a left tackle of the future in Charles Cross from Mississippi State and call it a day. One of the best compliments you can give a tackle prospect is at times it truly gets boring watching their film because of how good they are, and that was honestly the case with Cross in pass protection in 2021. Charles Cross at pick 6 to Carolina. The New York Giants have picks 5 and 7 in the first round, so they are back on the clock. The defense for the Giants is honestly pretty good, and we gave them Kayvon Thibodeaux already, and now we are going to flip this pick around and we are going to attack the offensive trenches. They have Saquon Barkley, who whether or not he stays long term is to be determined, and we will probably know that by the draft time. They have Sterling Shepard, they have Darius Slayton, who I do think is an underrated player, Kenny Golladay, who didn't have a good 2021, and we know that, but there's no point in forcing a receiver here when you have the best center prospect in probably at least 5 years and maybe 10 in Tyler Linderbaum. We will give the next quarterback, if Daniel Jones is not the long-term answer, as good of a setup as we possibly can. Tyler Linderbaum is the selection. The Atlanta Falcons are at number 8 overall, and they had an interesting 2021. On paper, they weren't a bad team, but the reality is they didn't beat any playoff teams and beat teams like the Giants, Jets, Jags, and Panthers. It was a very much what you see is what you get team. And with the uncertainty surrounding the receiver position at the moment for Atlanta, because there are rumors that Calvin Ridley wants out after he missed most of the 2021 season due to mental health, the Falcons will be in need of a receiver, and even if Ridley returns, it's not bad to have a player of Treylon Burks' caliber on the roster. And I don't think this is dependent on whether or not Ridley returns either, by the way. Burks is a very, very good player, and Atlanta could certainly use him on their offense. He is a do-it-all player and reminds me a lot of Deebo Samuel, and will be the first offensive skill position player off the board in today's mock. 9 is the Denver Broncos, and this is another huge toss-up like the Texans at 3. I don't know if they're even going to be making this selection, but you can make a case for them to take any of the quarterbacks for various reasons in this spot. You can make the case for Malik Willis by saying, look at the arm talent, look at the ceiling, and if he hits that ceiling with Judy, Sutton, Patrick, and Fant, then they are easily another top dog in the AFC and would be for well over a decade. The same can also be said for Carson Strong. However, where I have Denver going in today's video is with Pitt quarterback Kenny Pickett. Kenny, in a lot of ways, is Joe Burrow light with his pocket presence and his ability to avoid pass rush and make good, sound throws. Calling him Joe Burrow light does not mean he's going to be a second season quarterback in the Super Bowl, etc. You get where I'm going. It's a loosely based comp. Pickett's ceiling is limited, admittedly, but this team is a quarterback on a way, and if they make this selection, which again is a huge if at this point in time, I do think Kenny Pickett is the route they will go. The Jets are back on the clock, and I did say when they were on the clock at pick 4 that we may address a receiver to help out Zach Wilson and get him as many weapons as possible. Unfortunately, we are not here, as the Jets need better corners, and they would have their choice between Sauce Gardner, Derek Stingley, or Andrew Booth. I do think the corner selections that are available at 10 are better than what the receiver options are. So in today's mock, we have them going with Derek Stingley from LSU. I do think with their early second round selection, though, we could see them snag a tight end in Colorado State's Trey McBride, as it's truly not an exaggeration to say the Jets had one of the worst tight end rooms in all of football in 2021. We are briefly going to go over picks 11 through 32. If the board plays out like this, Washington is in a perfect position to take Matt Corral. The Vikings with Nakobe Dean is in a perfect position to take Nakobe with the loss of Anthony Barr in free agency. Baker Mayfield and the Browns need help at the receiver position. They get a hometown guy in Garrett Wilson. Ahmad Sauce Gardner is a Baltimore Raven. It's a perfect pick. You watch a player play on tape, it just makes sense. That's where we're going with Sauce Gardner. Drake London, the Eagles need a big-bodied receiver. Devontae Smith looks to be a good receiver for the next 5 to 7 years, hopefully even longer. Drake London would be a perfect counterpart, given some of the Eagles, their other selections didn't work out. Now 16 through 20. The Eagles need help rushing the quarterback. George Karlaftis is the best available edge rusher. I also would not mind David Ojabo, but I can't justify Ojabo over Karlaftis in this situation. The Chargers had teams run on them left and right in 2021. Let's go ahead and plug that with 6'6", 330-pound D lineman Jordan Davis. The Saints, they need a lot of help on the offense. Who knows what Michael Thomas's future is? Let's go ahead and plug in another receiver in case that doesn't work out in Chris Olave. Devin Lloyd would be a great linebacker for the Eagles to roam sideline to sideline. The Eagles most certainly need help there. That takes care of it for the next at least probably half decade. Now, one of the biggest risers of the senior week was quarterback Malik Willis. The Steelers are rumored to be in love with him. I do not think that Malik Willis lasts this long with no trades. It's obviously different, but I don't think there's any way Malik Willis lasts to pick 20 on draft night. However, for this mock, he is going to pick 20 in Pittsburgh. 21 through 25, the Patriots got smoked in the postseason by the Bills. They gave up 47 points in what was surely embarrassing to Bill Belichick. They did not have the horses to keep up with Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, and the gang. We'll give them corner Andrew Booth. The Raiders have receiver as a position of need due to some off-the-field issues. Jamison Williams, we hope he recovers and becomes the player that he should be, and if he does, this will prove to be a steal for Las Vegas. The Cardinals need help rushing the passer. J.J. Watt at this point cannot be counted on. We'll give them David Ojabo. The Cowboys' interior offensive line, with Zach Martin getting up there in age, he is a future Hall of Fame player, but we're going to give them the best available interior offensive lineman, and that is Kenyon Green from Texas A&M. 25. The Bills season didn't exactly end the way they wanted it to. They need a little corner help, nothing crazy. This is a team that does not have a lot of holes, but we will try and solidify what little chinks in the armor they have and give them the best corner on the board, and that is 6'2", 195-pound corner, Kaiir Elam from Florida. 26 through 32, we give the Titans an edge rusher from Florida State. Jermaine Johnson had the biggest rise of anyone from the Senior Bowl. That makes a huge difference on his final draft grade because all of the NFL teams were down there to watch him play, sit in person, up close. The Bucs will more than likely need a receiver this offseason with Chris Godwin's pending free agency and, of course, Antonio Brown and that situation. Devontae Wyatt to the Packers, it makes a lot of sense. Kenny Clark kind of needs a Robin to his Batman. The Packers, they're going to be in a tricky situation depending how everything else plays out. They also could go receiver, though I didn't want to force one here at the end of round 1, and we're at the point between 28 and 32 where I think we're going to see a lot of trades happen in this area. The Dolphins' offensive line was absolutely horrible in all of 2021. So we give them Trevor Penning, tackle from Northern Iowa. This Kansas City pick, there's really not a lot to dive into other than we're going to with the BPA, or the best player available approach for them. Jamar Chase absolutely chapped them the first time they played, and Kansas City and corner, especially with Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, a corner never hurts a team like this. Now, for 31 and 32, Bengals fans may be asking, why a corner here? We have good corner play. We had good corner play in 2021. It's kind of the same thing with what I said for the Chiefs. Roger McCreary's a very good player. He will be a solid NFL corner for probably at least half a decade. And when you're going up against the quarterbacks that you are in that conference, it never hurts to solidify that position. And for Sam Howell, the final pick of the first round, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if the Lions make that pick, but I most certainly see a team trading up to pick 32 or 31, even with the Bengals, to trade up and get a quarterback to get that extra fifth-year option. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed, and if you're still watching, I ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would truly mean the world, guys. And until next time, I cannot thank you guys enough for the support. This is the longest video I've ever done, so I really hope you enjoyed. And until next time, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.